Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Great America Show. It's great to have you with us. The FBI is running rogue, and the truth is they have been for years. New York City Mayor Eric Adams is the latest to find out just how the FBI operates, finding out the hard way while being indicted last week. The U.S. Attorney says the New York City Mayor sold influence for bribes from foreign nationals in a grave breach of public trust. The indictment alleges that Adams compounded his gains from illegal contributions by gaming the city's funding matching program, which provides a generous match for small dollar donors. His campaign received more than $10,000 in matching funds as a result of the false certifications. This, of course, according to the indictment. Adams allegedly solicited and demanded bribes, including free and heavily discounted luxury travel benefits from a Turkish official. The indictment notes that the official was seeking Adams' help pertaining to regulations of the Turkish consulate in Manhattan. So who exactly did Mayor Adams piss off in the Biden regime? Well, we may soon find out. 1,000 miles south of New York City sits Miami Beach, Florida. The big story down there? The FBI agent leading the investigation into the second assassination attempt on President Trump happens to be a Marxist Dem who has a history of anti-Trump bias and tried to force U.S. veterans out of the Bureau. Christopher Wray's FBI put agent Jeff Veltri, a rabid Trump hater, to lead the investigation into the second attempt on Trump. Veltri was the subject of an internal retaliation investigation for his anti-Trump and anti-conservative bias. This according to a whistleblower. Veltri was later promoted despite the allegations of his anti-conservative bias. To take all this up and much more, our guest today is the founder of the Gateway Pundit, Jim Hoft. Jim, thanks so much for joining us here today on the Great America Show. I want to start with more Gateway Pundit reporting. You guys do a better job, I think, than probably 99% of any online and I would even say on television outlets with the honesty and the reporting and the deep diving you do. A new report out from the Gateway Pundit. FBI agent leading investigation in a second Trump assassination attempt is a toxic loon who has a history of anti-Trump bias and tried to force U.S. veterans out of the Bureau. It's a man by the name of Jeff Veltri. I just called you Jeff. Jim, tell us, if you can, what's going on with this fella and why is he leading the Trump investigation?
Right. So this is just another one of those incredible stories, and it's very frightening when you really think about it, that this is one of the leading players at the FBI. He's in charge of a very important district right now, which is Southern Florida. Mm-hmm. And of course, as we all know, that's where Mar-a-Lago is, and that's where President Trump lives at this time. Yep. So when they put him down there were several complaints from some of the agents. Some whistleblowers spoke out and said that this guy was trying to get them off of the force, out of the Bureau, because they were former Marines or former servicemen. And he didn't like that. And he didn't like that because, according to the whistleblowers, he felt that their politics may make them, pro-Trump at the time. And so these guys actually came forward and complained about this. But the guy somehow still has the position. It's this strange world that we're living in today, yep, where people can have serious complaints against them like this and still hold their positions. But it only appears to work when it's going in one direction, right? This guy, in my belief, he never should be leading that department down there and leading that Southern Florida division. Yep. And yet here we are. And so he's the one who's going to be investigating this, right, this second attempted shooting of President Trump within 2 months.
Yep. It doesn't really make much sense. And I think I was diving a little bit deeper into it. Apparently, after the whistleblowers came forward and alleged all this stuff against him, he was actually promoted. I mean, it seems to be that's, the mantra in the FBI. The more corrupt you can be, the higher up the ladder you'll go. And, I argue about this with some people on this show often who defend the FBI and rank and file guys. This guy was a rank and file guy. And it goes up and down the ladder, Jim. It's not just the top brass. They are calling the shots. There's no doubt about it, the seventh floor of the FBI. But these rank and file guys, Jim, are the guys who go knock down people's doors who are protesting at school board meetings, right? These are the rank and file guys who show up at conservatives' houses when they put up a social media post that they say is questionable because they support President Trump. It's from the top down, and the fish rots at the head, obviously. But it's guys like this who think they're allowed to get away with this stuff because of what they see at the top. And it's literally, Jim, it's just a big pyramid. How do we get an honest investigation out of this FBI? The same agency, you mentioned he's in Miami. Miami Bureau's the ones who raided President Trump's Mar-a-Lago home. Now it's the same people who we're supposed to expect to, sit here and give us an honest investigation. Like I said, Jim, the rank and file guys over the rank and file guys could have went to Mar-a-Lago that day when they decided to raid it and said, we're not doing this. And we had heard from whistleblowers actually that there was FBI agents who were there who said, we don't think this is the right move. We don't think this is the right move to do it. Yet they did it anyway. And these rank and file guys who didn't think it was right to do it, they did it anyway. When are these people going to stand up, Jim? When are these rank and file guys who are the good guys? Because we know you guys are out there. When are these rank and file guys who are the good guys going to stand up to these bullies and these thugs and say, enough is enough? You're ruining our damn country.
Yeah, great question. And we followed a lot of the January 6th cases. We've talked to hundreds of these people now, literally over 100 people we've spoken with. We put up their stories on Gateway Pundit. We help families raise money. We're going to put up a story in the next day or so where this one man had his house raided in the middle of winter. His wife was forced outside. She was in her bare feet. She ended up losing her baby a day or two later. She was pregnant at the time. And her son, who was 4 years old, is still having trauma because the FBI raided their home, forced him outside in the cold. And as they arrested Daddy and took him away, it's just absolutely shocking that these people, like you said, how does somebody with a conscience think that they're doing something that's just, or that they're the good guys when they're forcing pregnant women outside of the homes in the middle of winter, forcing them to stand outside barefoot? That's just one example. We've heard, dozens of stories like this. The FBI would bring in all of this, armed vehicles, and they'd come in fully suited up with, high-powered rifles to go arrest somebody who attended the January 6th protest and just happened to walk in the U.S. Capitol, not knowing that what they were doing was against the law because all of the signs were taken down, all of the fencing was gone by the time they got to the U.S. Capitol. You're absolutely right. It's just, this is a very corrupt organization right now. I think if you're conservative and you see the FBI coming, in my opinion, you better beware. You better not talk. We know that, but don't say a word. Call your attorney. But they're not there to do any good. That's for sure. We know that at this point.
The scary thing, Jim, just thinking about it, you'd mentioned call your attorney. I wonder, because I've spoken to a lot of people. I had spoken to a girl a few weeks ago. Her name was Bevelyn Williams, and she had protested outside of a Planned Parenthood facility in New York City, was brought civil charges, not criminal, civil charges by Tish James in New York, settled the civil charges, and then I think a year later was charged criminally by this man, Damian Williams, who's now the man who charged Eric Adams from the Southern District of New York. And I was talking with her, and she said she was provided an attorney, and her co-defendant, I think, was let off scot-free with nothing. And she didn't think her first attorney was working in her best interest. So now you can't afford an attorney, so the court appoints you one. But how do you even know to trust these people? That was just in the back of my mind when you had said attorney. The thing that enrages me, Jim, is that these FBI thugs and gangsters, they had no problem going to January 6th people's houses, grandmas, elderly people who may have been on the Capitol grounds, who may have entered the Capitol, like you'd said, through doors. I'd watched Derek Evans, a friend of mine, post a video on Twitter the other day, and he's in the Capitol, and he's telling everyone, do not destroy anything. And he was very adamant about it. Do not destroy anything. This is a sacred place. Do not destroy anything. And he's walking around the Capitol Rotunda, and I think he did 3 months in jail, and they try to ruin his life over it. But it's things like that. But then you go and look at this school shooter in Georgia that happened a few months ago, and you watch the videos released of the FBI showing up at his house after they were warned that this kid may do something like this. And the video's released, and the FBI agent is talking to the kid, and he says, did you say you were going to shoot up the school? And the kid said, no, I didn't say that. I never said that. Well, of course, he's not going to admit to saying that. And the FBI agent looks at him and goes, well, you're telling me this, so I guess I've got to believe you. and goes on his very merry way. Yet, you've got people who are no threat to society. They're a threat to the status quo, Jim. They're a threat to not wanting their children indoctrinated in schools. They're a threat to not wanting boys and girls bathrooms. They're a threat to not wanting boys and girls sports, but they're not a threat to society. And you've got these FBI thugs and gangsters, Jim, banging down these doors like they're some big tough guys. I want to take a quick break here. Speaking of the FBI, raiding New York City Mayor Eric Adams. I think we all expected this was coming any day now, but we finally got it. And we have the indictment unsealed. We're going to take that up on the other side of this break. We're talking with the founder of the Gateway Pundit, Jim Hoft. We're coming right back. Folks, are you tired of supporting big box stores and multi-billion-dollar corporations that don't support us? Corporations that donate tens of millions of dollars a year to push woke Marxist dem ideologies? Whether it be Amazon and Jeff Bezos or Target with their transgender clothing for kids, or even Bud Light going totally woke, enough is enough. Why should we as lovers of this country continue to support these corporations? The answer is we shouldn't. I constantly get people who reach out to me and ask, John, what can we do to save this country? Where can we shop and support American-made brands and conservative ideologies? Well, we now have a solution to stop shopping at these woke companies and stop funding the deep state, and a solution to buy American. This is something we can all do right now to kick the deep state in the teeth and stop funding our enemies and vote with our dollars. We have a parallel economy for around 450 household products. Not only can you cancel woke brands like Procter & Gamble and Johnson & Johnson, you can also cancel the stores that carry them. I need you all to head over to switchwithjohn.com, that's switchwithjohn.com, where you can read all about our movement. We have access to a conservative manufacturer that will replace these brands and the stores you buy them from. It isn't an additional budget item because instead of turning right into Target or left into Walmart, you're going to shop directly online, directly with the manufacturer. Folks, this is a patriot movement that is happening right now before our eyes. Every 47 seconds, a shopper is switching to our online store, and we need you to partner with us. Join us and band together. I just canceled my Amazon Prime subscription because I've truly had enough. So what do you say? It's time to put your money where your heart is? Join us today and help save this nation. Go to switchwithjohn.com. That's switchwithjohn.com to learn how you can join thousands of other patriots and help take this nation back. switchwithjohn.com. We'll see you there. We're back. We're talking with Jim Hoft of the Gateway Pundit. Jim, Eric Adams, New York City Mayor, is the latest victim, although he calls himself a victim, of the FBI raids. An unsealed indictment this week laying out charges against him, such as wire fraud, bribery, straw donors donated to his campaign. What do you make of it all? Who do you think Eric Adams has pissed off to have this happen to him?
Yeah, this is really interesting, isn't it? I think that's a big question because we know, as we were talking off air, how many of these politicians could join him and they could all lock arms and walk into the prison together because they've all done such nasty things or corrupt things. Why Eric Adams? Why now? And so that's the question I would love to see. Why are they going after Eric Adams? What did he do, and who did he tick off to be in this position? The wire fraud charge always kind of raises a red flag for me. I'm like, that's just, to me, I think that's one of those charges they just throw at people to sound like they've really done something, horribly wrong.
Well, Jim, you know what it is? The wire fraud charge can be something like, so if I made a campaign donation to you and it was an illegal campaign donation, I did it on the internet, I paid through a wire, so that's wire fraud. If I mailed you a check, it's, I'm not sure what the term is. It's like postal fraud or something like that. Sorry,
right.
Go ahead.
Right. So it's one of these charges that sounds really serious, but then you look at it and you're like, what is that really? So, I think it's going to be interesting to find out really what's behind this. He spoke out some against illegal immigration, and yet he was funding it the whole time. Is that what pissed him off? Is the fact that he was speaking out against it? Otherwise, I thought he was pretty much in part of the club, but apparently he wasn't. So, it's New York City. Who knows? Who knows what's going to happen in New York these days? I mean, look what they did to Donald Trump there. So. Anyway, I have more questions right now than answers. I know they did release didn't they release the indictment today? I haven't had a chance to really do a deep dive into it, but It's
The
just
thing, the thing that annoys the hell out of me, Jim, is when it's a Democrat, they're martyrs and it's a persecution. When it's a Republican or it's Donald Trump, it's prosecution because they're crooked as hell and you're a dirty guy. Donald Trump is probably one of the cleanest people, I think, to ever step foot in Washington, D.C. Probably the cleanest person. As for the life he has lived and his motives and everything he did while he was president, you've got people running around Congress, insider trading, Jim, every single day. And, you know, if you don't want to call it insider trading, that's what it is. Nancy Pelosi's husband this week sold $500,000 worth of Visa stock, or he sold it last week as the antitrust lawsuit came this week. It doesn't, Jim, things like that aren't coincidences and they're not accidents. We've got real criminals running around this place. And you'd mentioned, you know, how many of them can lock arms? I mean, you've got over 400 members of Congress. I guarantee if you looked into to those folks, you'd probably catch about 300 of them doing something wrong. If you went across 50 states and picked off some governors, you'd probably get like 20 of them. Forget about looking into the attorney generals and things like that. But, you know, it's telling to me because we had Bob Menendez last year. He had come out and spoken out against the Biden regime a little bit on some things. And now you've got Mayor Eric Adams. But the thing that doesn't make sense to me in this is he spoke out against illegal immigration. And then he was like in favor of them, saying we should give them jobs as lifeguards because they're good at swimming because they're Spanish and they swam across the Rio Grande. I mean, that was one of the most absurd things I heard him say. But like you said, at the same time, Jim, he funded these people and kept putting in budgets and asking for money to fund and keep these people in New York. So I don't know if it's a lot deeper than it seems, but what could he have possibly done?
Right. And what is the message? Who is this? You know, they're trying to communicate to somebody. Is this a Democrat Party?
Yeah.
And you must march lockstep with us every step of the way, or you'll be persecuted. It's just not clear what's going on there yet. But I'm sure there's much more to the story. My brother had some contacts in the New York police during COVID. We actually had the story about Cuomo and his paramour, his I don't know if she's fiance or girlfriend or whatever. They were traveling together a lot, and she was part of the retirement homes. She had some connections there, and of course he was moving all these poor souls to the retirement homes and infecting the whole entire retirement home. But he was saying at the time that there were some crooked cops in New York, so we knew something was going on. But I just think it's very shocking that this is taking place, and because, you know, we do know that there's criminals in government from top to bottom, and really from the very top, we have Joe Biden right there, who has done incredible things, him and his son, and yet nothing happens to him. But now the mayor of New York, something does happen to this guy. Yep,
they've got Bobby Gold Bar Menendez getting a $500,000 or $600,000 of gold bars out of his closet. Are we really worried about 5 or 6? Now the guy's a crook. There's no doubt about it. His whole life he's been under this microscope for doing questionable things. They got him one time. They got him on a hung jury. He got off. He kept doing it. I mean, it's clear as day that Bob Menendez is a damn crook. But they're going after him for $500,000, $1 million in gold bars or whatever the hell it is. Yet Nancy Pelosi's husband, I think since 2020, she's done over $100 and something million in trades. So 4 years, $100 something million in trades. I mean, that's like unbelievable to me that they continue to get away with this stuff.
Yeah.
Yet Donald.
To add on top of that, there's actually a Twitter page that follows all of her.
Quiver Quant. Yep.
Yeah.
Quiver Quant.
Because they're so famous for having this brilliant portfolio. They're always ahead of the game.
Yep.
Making all kinds of money. So, but nothing happens to Nancy.
Yep. If you guys want to get ahead of the curve like them, follow on Twitter. They do really good detailed work of every member of Congress who makes questionable trades, even unquestionable trades. It's called Quiver Quant. You know, the issue, Jim, that I was telling somebody yesterday is they have 30 days to disclose their trades. For anyone who's in the trading industry or hedge fund, 30 days is like, it might as well be 30 years because information in the stock market that we're in any stock market for that matter, is old after like 30 seconds. You know, everyone back in the day was so happy to get these Bloomberg terminals because they said it gave you an extra 10 seconds to get a trade in to act based on things. So 30 days means nothing. If you don't want to ban stock trading for members of Congress, make it so that they have to disclose that trade the second they put that damn thing in, and all of us can see it. So you know what? All of us Americans can make money too. You know, we don't have to sit on the sidelines. I want to go back to President Trump. They say he's the greatest threat to democracy, which is clearly not true. I would argue Kamala Harris may be the greatest threat to democracy, stealing the nomination from Joe Biden, a lady who's never gotten one damn vote in her life in a presidential primary, and now all of a sudden she's the 2024 contender. These Democrats keep going. Two assassination attempts on President Trump, and they will not relent. Their rhetoric is dangerous. They've always said Trump has dangerous rhetoric. I'd argue their rhetoric is far more dangerous, considering the two assassination attempts. But it doesn't stop. Biden's Secretary of Commerce, Gina Raimondo, was on MSDNC the other day and continues to put a target on President Trump's head. Take a listen.
He says is the opposite. It's just another lie. Like, how did we get here? Let's extinguish him for good. We have an answer. We have a remarkably talented candidate who is sincere, who's pragmatic, who's open. Let's just get it done.
What does she mean, Jim? Extinguish him? That's a highly peculiar term for a man who's just been almost assassinated 2 times.
Yeah. She didn't say extinguish the MAGA party, the MAGA movement. She said extinguish, the president. It's unbelievable. They continue to talk like this, and that's why they have lunatics out there hiding in the bushes with, rifles, trying to shoot Trump while he's playing golf in Palm Beach. It's absolutely disgusting. And she was referencing, Trump had said at a rally the night before that he was there to be a protector of women, which of course he is. With his policies, he can protect families, he can protect our bank accounts, he can protect women walking the streets because he supports the police and supports funding the police, and he supports having secure borders. So everything Trump says makes sense. These people are just living in this fantasy world, and it drives them crazy that Trump would challenge their fantasies. And this is how she expresses herself then, that Trump needs to be extinguished.
Jim, I think when Trump wins on November 5th or 2 weeks after November 5th or 3 weeks after, or sometime in December or like January when they finally call the election this year, doctors across America, they were so fast during COVID to come out and do all these things. They should start diagnosing people with Trump derangement syndrome. And they're, the big pharma would be happy because they prescribe people medicine on how they can help themselves. I want to take one more quick break here, Jim. When we come back, a new election model has Trump at a 55% chance for going back to the White House. Union workers in Michigan are getting tired of this left-wing media. We have some video footage for you. And the city of Madison sending out a few thousand extra ballots by accident. Was it really an accident? We're going to take this up with Jim Hoft of the Gateway Pundit when we return. Stay with us. We're coming right back.
A large retail store just canceled a huge order, leaving us with a ton of extra MyPillows. But you know what? That's their loss. I'm going to make it your gain. For the first time ever, you get standard classic MyPillows for wholesale prices, only $14.88. I can't believe I'm even saying that. Only $14.88. But it gets even better. For a limited time, I'm going to offer my entire classic collection at wholesale prices. Upgrade to a queen size MyPillow for just $18.88. King size only $1 more. Get my body pillows for $29.88 and multi-use MyPillows for only $9.88. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on the screen. Use your promo code to take advantage of wholesale pricing for the first time ever on TV, including my standard size MyPillow, only $14.88. They've never been offered this low before. We have limited quantities at this price, so limit's going to be 10, and once they're gone, they're gone.
We're back. We're talking with Jim Hoft of the Gateway Pundit. By the way, if you guys don't read the Gateway Pundit, the first thing I do when I wake up in the morning, about 8 o'clock, I get my cup of coffee, and the first news publication I go to is the Gateway Pundit because their headlines are so targeted towards everything us as conservatives believe in, and they do a great job investigating it. So if you don't read the Gateway Pundit, I really encourage you all to add that to your list of daily news sources because they do a terrific job. Someone who's not doing a terrific job, Jim, as we just saw in the last segment, is MSNBC. They were in Saginaw, Michigan, talking to union workers, because union workers are, very big out there. They, do a lot of things for this country and build a lot of things, including almost all of our American cars. And MSNBC was out there, and they were trying to get a sense from these voters of what they thought about January 6th. I want to play for the audience these union folks' reaction. Take a listen.
Talk to me about your level of interest in the criminal charges and so forth.
February 6th?
January 6th.
January 6th. So I remember that day. I know he was the standing president. I'm not familiar with the charges that are being brought against him for that. I'm not following that charge I know there's multiple court cases going on. I'm just not familiar with it.
I mean, that doesn't sound like it's going to be a factor in deciding who to vote for.
No.
Okay, so when I say January 6th, what do you think?
Oh, I just remember seeing it on the news, like all the riots and stuff. Don't really know what it was about or what happened, though.
How did it make you feel when you saw it?
I don't know. I don't really feel any way about it. People showed their emotion, I guess. Probably in the wrong way, but it happened.
Jim, those are the people who run this country. Those are the people that built this country, the blue-collar workers. They couldn't give a damn what that lady in her expensive suit jacket was saying about, February 6th? Because it's truly, it was nothing. We all know it was absolutely nothing. And we now know, Jim, thanks to Michael Horowitz, the Inspector General, that there were January 6th informants there. Before we get into that, I want to play for the audience what these union workers do care about.
Mostly just immigration.
Can you talk a little bit more about that? What about immigration have you been paying attention to?
There are thousands and thousands of illegal immigrants coming across the border every day, and the vice president has done minimal work to fix that, based on what I've seen. So I'd like that to change.
Bingo, Jim. Illegal immigration. They don't care about February 6th or December 7th or December 6th, or January 6th, or any of that crap, because it's all a bunch of BS. So we find out last week that Michael Horowitz, the Inspector General, has a report coming out, and coincidentally, it won't be until after the election. Tell us what's in that report, Jim.
Yeah, so Horowitz admitted yesterday that he's going to release a number of FBI undercover agents who are involved in the January 6th protests and riots. I don't know if this is going to include all the cutouts, like we have very suspicious characters walking around that day. We've been reporting on that since January 6th took place. And there's been reports already of at least 40 or 50. So he said you're going to be shocked with the number. I'm sure it's much more than that. Chris Wray would never, when he was testifying, he wouldn't answer that question.
He's a damn coward.
Yeah, and so it'll be interesting. But, of course, you're not going to release that till after the election because it would hurt Democrats. So another thing, just to make the American people just more furious at their government for hiding and lying to them about something that's pretty important, the fact that all these people got set up. Also, it's interesting that this woman from MSNBC was talking to individuals in Michigan, Saginaw, Michigan, because that's exactly the same state where they set up a bunch of lower middle class white guys, and had the FBI come in, run the operation, plan the operation, pay for the operation, and then snag these guys in some ridiculous scheme that they were supposedly going to kidnap Gretchen Whitmer and offer on some island or something. It was all the FBI. They even had an FBI agent in that hit on these poor men. She was sleeping with one of the guys. So how far they went to pull that thing off. Anyway, I loved that clip because it shows what Americans really believe. And it also shows that this is why places like Gateway Pundit, our website, is constantly under attack now more than ever from lawsuits and different things, because they're furious that where are these people understanding that the borders are open. They're not talking about it. They never show the pictures of the caravans. So where are they going to get this? And that's why they're furious that Americans understand what's really happening, and they're not all listening to the BS about January 6th.
Yeah, because it's over. I mean, we've heard more lies about January 6th than we heard truths about January 6th. I mean, I was at the Trump rally on the lawn when Trump gave his speech, and I mean, I was reporting at the time for Fox Business on Lou Dobbs' show. We had, hours of video footage or whatever that we ran on Fox that night. And I mean, it was all people that were happy. It was funny. I actually, people following me around heckling me that Fox was too liberal, and they were following me around. They wouldn't let me with bullhorns, and they wouldn't let me interview any people. And everyone was fine. Everything was good. After that, I left the what is it called? The Oculus, I guess, or by the Washington Monument. The Ellipse. And I went back to the Fox News Bureau, and that's when all this stuff apparently started unfolding. So it's so strange that in the matter of an hour or so, these people went from everyone smiling, cheering, hugging each other. It was truly just an American festival, it seemed like, to now tearing down the Capitol and burning down the Capitol and rummaging through things. It also didn't make sense how they got there so fast, considering it's not exactly, right next door. It's a little bit of a walk for anyone who's been to D.C., that walk from the mall up to the Capitol and up those damn steps. And, it's not an easy walk. So for anyone who, doesn't think that the government played some sort of role, and it all ties together, Jim. National Guard, President Trump asked for them to be there just in case something went down. Nowhere to be found. They don't like the idea of military presence, Jim, but they did like the idea of watching windows be smashed at the Capitol and barricades be thrown and Ashley Babbitt be murdered by a cold-blooded killer while that man's been paraded now. But yet you hear about, Capitol officer who died the next day of something unrelated. No Capitol officers died that day. The only people who died that day were Trump supporters.
Right. And we've covered that extensively at Gateway Pundit. We're the first ones to cover Roseanne Boyland. This other woman, they still said, and I put this up this week, 60 Minutes is still saying she died from an overdose. Yeah. This is a poor young woman who was actually in recovery, had been for several years, was leading support groups in her community. And yet they smeared her with this awful, thing to say that she was actually overdosed that day. And then they cremated her body before they could see it. And the reason they did that, I believe, is because Roseanne was knocked down, smothered on the steps, and then the police beat her to death. And there's actually video of that the Gateway Pundit put up that shows this poor woman dying on the steps as a police officer is beating her. Officer Lila Morris, by the way, that we identified. The mainstream media will never report that. They're never going to show those videos. So they create their own narrative, and it's always a fantasy. And that's why they hate shows like yours and websites like Gateway Pundit, because we'll actually do the deep dive and show what really happened that day. One thing I'd like to add too is it's very evident today, and that is that you are absolutely right. Trump ordered the National Guard in. Pelosi turned him down specifically. So did Mark Milley. And we know that the FBI also had information that there could be some rioting that day. Well,
of course they had information, Jim. They were the ones doing it.
It was their guys, right? So this was a setup for Trump, and it was nothing less than that. It was a setup to get Trump supporters, and they're still persecuting these people. And again, 60 Minutes a week ago did a report on this, talking about how awful these people were, when 80% of them are just people who walked inside the Capitol and had no idea that they were breaking the law when they walked inside. It's absolutely disgusting.
I think 60 Minutes the last few years has lost a lot of credibility. I would argue that they really have none left just based on the garbage that they put out. I mean, they're just radical Marxists. You'd mentioned Roseanne Boyland and the cremation. That seems to be a thing these days with this cremation. Because same thing that happened to Matthew Crooks. And a fellow I have on the show very often, man, by the name of Russ Tice, a former senior NSA intel analyst, says it's very easy with the cremation because you can't get a toxicology report. So if she did overdose, why wouldn't you want her body so you can do a toxicology report to prove that she overdosed, if that's the case, right? I mean, there's no easier way to prove your case, Jim, than Or maybe your theory is correct, and she was beaten to death by these thugs and gangsters, because that's exactly what they are. I mean, I pray that when Trump comes back in, he rights this ship and does the right thing for these people. And all indications are pointing that he will. I want to wrap up with this. New polling out from JL Partners gives Trump a 55% chance of winning this election coming up. But there is a problem, Jim, and it's the same problem we saw in 2020. The thought of fraud. A few weeks ago, we saw in Arizona 100,000 mail-in ballots be sent to people who could not be identified as citizens, we'll say. In Wisconsin a few weeks ago, you also had another few thousand people sent out ballots who, during COVID-19, they were able to go through this process where they were able to get mail-in ballots and not have to provide their identity. This week, we find out that the city of Madison clerks admitted to sending thousands of duplicate ballots to people ahead of the election. I think it was 2,000 ballots. To put it in perspective, Madison, Wisconsin went 77-23 for Joe Biden, 260,000 to 79,000 in Joe Biden's favor. Joe Biden won Wisconsin by 20,000 votes. So people may look at this and say, well, it's only 2,000 ballots. Okay. The city of Madison is extremely Democratic, as we just laid out, 77-23. The clerk has asked these people who got duplicate ballots to kindly send your ballots back to them and only vote one time. For a county that's went 77-23 in Joe Biden's favor, Jim, do you have any confidence that those people are going to send back their ballots?
I have no confidence that that's going to be taken care of. None, zero. Yeah, it's awful. Of course, it happens in one of the only hubs in Wisconsin that is goes for Democrats. Madison, one of the most radical far left communities in Wisconsin. So, yeah, was that a mistake? Who knows?
Yeah, and it's going to happen across all these big blue cities across the country, I think, leading up to this election. I'm predicting we'll see some ballot misprints maybe in Philadelphia. Philadelphia seems to be, coming into play very, very frequently in these past few elections. Sure. Maybe we'll see. We're here in Virginia, maybe in play now. Maybe we'll see some accidental ballots sent out to McLean, Virginia, to those millionaires and the military-industrial complex folks that live just outside of D.C. And maybe we'll see some in Atlanta, Georgia, and Phoenix, Arizona. What do you say, Jim? Right. Detroit, Michigan. I mean, it's just unbelievable that the people turn their blind eye to this stuff.
Yeah.
You get the last word here, Jim. I mean, are you confident? We're now less than 40 days out to the election. Are you confident that President Trump prevails through all fraud and irregularities, we'll call that, for the sake of not being sued?
Well, I think in a fair election, of course, it'd be a landslide for Trump, as 2020 would have been. But we do have the mail-in ballots, and that's always a wild card. I've spoken with a lot of investigators, and they are on top of a few of these issues. The UOCAVA votes is these foreign people who are outside the country sending ballots in. There are some groups that are actually checking to make sure that that's going to be free and fair. So, I got to pray that Trump's going to do it, but it'll be a miracle. But the country needs it. I don't think we can survive another 4 years of this radicalism. And I think a lot of people understand that.
I was talking with my father the other day, and he said, I think, at this point it's a shoo-in for Trump. I said, yeah, I'd agree with you, Dad. It is a shoo-in. But then you got to factor in the fraud and the cheating. And he said, yeah, but you know what? They can't overcome the cheating with how many people are voting for him. I said, well, if you listen to some people that say that things can be changed via machines, it doesn't matter if you miss by 100 votes or 20 votes, because the number can just be changed. So, Jim, thanks so much for joining us today here on the Great America Show. We really appreciate it, and come back soon.
Good to be on with you. Thanks.
Thanks, everybody, for being with us today, and please be sure to join us back here tomorrow for the Great America Show as our quest for truth, justice, and the American way continues. Be sure to follow me on Twitter at John Fawcett NY. That's John Fawcett NY, and on Truth Social at John Fawcett. Shoot me a tweet. Let me know what you want to hear more of on the show, and you can also email us at info@loudobbs.com. We want to hear from you. Shoot us a tweet. Send us a message. We'll see you back here tomorrow. May God bless you. May God bless America. And may God bless the great Lou Dobbs.